Hey everybody, it's Brad with another Floriani Total Control U video for you today. Today we're going to be digitizing a logo as a favor for a customer of mine who is trying to make these labels for charity COVID quilts. It looks like from the graphic that we're going to be dealing with, and she wanted me to show her how to do it, and it's really hard to do that over like a live chat thing, so I figured it'd be easier if I just do it as a video and she can pause it and go back and follow along as many times as she wants. So we're going to take it from the top. You open up your Floriani software and then you're going to click on Create a New Design. And we're going to be digitizing from a backdrop today, which means we're going to be tracing off of an existing graphic that we have on our computer. And the tool that we use for bringing up our graphic is right here in the middle of the left-hand toolbar here. If you hover your mouse over it, it will say Backdrop Tool, and it looks like a little mountain. We're going to left-click on that, and we're in my Downloads folder here. You would just go to wherever your file that you're using is, but I downloaded it from when you emailed it to me, so we're going to click on this, and we see the little preview there. We're going to hit Open. So that's going to bring my image up, and it will also, when you bring up an image in the Backdrop tool, it will zoom in far enough that it fits the entire image on the screen. So it can be deceptive when you are looking at an image like this. So if we look at this and we actually measure how big this is, I mean, I can tell by looking at the grid, but if we measure the actual graphic here, this is from tip to tip of these diamonds is just under 4 inches, and from here to here is just over half an inch. So I would probably make this a little bit bigger because if we look at these letters here, they are 6/100ths of an inch, which is really small. So if we wanted to have everything scaled the same way, we would really need to make this a little bit bigger to sew it out. And if you put it on a quilt, you should have plenty of room, right? So let's go ahead and resize it. Now, when you're working with a backdrop, and you see that in my properties menu there's nothing here, and if I go to my select tool I can't select it. How do I go and resize this if I've clicked off of the backdrop tool? All you got to do is click back on the backdrop tool. That's the only way to select a backdrop. That's the only way. And then we can go up here, we can set the width and the height here, but if you look, the measurements that we're getting here, 4.27 and 1, those are different values. And why is that? That's actually because the graphic itself includes this white area, which isn't part of the actual design. So what we're going to do is we're going to size this by just grabbing one of these handles here and left clicking and dragging. And I can actually see that right now we are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches for the entire design, which is going to give us about 5.5 inches from here to here, which I think is probably big enough. And if you don't have your grid set up into 1-inch grids like this, that's the way that makes sense to me, because my brain does inches, and if yours doesn't, then that's great, do it in metric. But if you want to change this so that it's set up like mine, you can right click on one of your rulers, either this one or this one, and if I say rulers, I mean this little ruler here and this ruler here going across the top. You right click on that, change it from metric to inches, and then go to grid settings and set your grid settings so that they look just like mine here. So 0.25 in the horizontal and vertical, 4 on the grid major for both of those, and set both of these to be black. Set it to show grid as dashed lines, and don't have any of these checked. Just hit OK, and it's going to work exactly the way that it looks on my screen. So if you want to set your grid to look just like it does on mine, then you can do that, or you can set it to however you want. Anyway, let's get started. The first thing that you do when you're digitizing a design is you want to look at it and think about what order the stitches need to go down. Kind of look at the layering of the thing. So the thing that's behind the most things to me looks like this kind of gray hatch cross back here. So that's probably gonna be the first thing that we put down. I mean, it wouldn't really matter because these guys aren't touching at all, so they're kind of their own separate thing. But looking at them, it would look like we're probably going to go red outline, white outline, and then we'll do the blue triangles and the gray triangles, then the red diamond shape that's going to go in there. And that is probably how I'm going to approach these. here for the logo part in the middle, we'll do the gray little line work there, and then probably from there do the blue outline, the red outline, then the lettering. Well, no, then the small lettering since it's the same color as that, and then the big lettering, and then the star, or maybe the star then the big lettering. I don't think it really matters that much. And I guess we could have these as part of the same color as this, so when it goes and does these, it could do the text on the star. Well, and I guess this blue outline here. So anyway, I've got a rough plan for this, and we can always move stuff around, but it's always good to have a plan. It's always good to have an idea for what you're going to do first. So we're going to do that, and let's go ahead and zoom in a bit. I'm going to use my my zoom in. Let's see, we're zooming in about 300%. It's a good level of zoom, I think. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So the first thing we're going to do is this part. So we're going to do this with what's called a run stitch, and we're going to try not to overlap ourselves at all. So let's see if we can successfully do that. We're going to go, and the tool that we're going to use for this, if we go up to the top up here, we've got this align tool. We have to first tell it that we were going to create artwork. So we click on this pencil. And I think by default, yeah, by default line is selected. So we get this crosshair, and what this is it lets us draw a straight line between 2 points. So if I click in one place and I click in another place, then we get a line between them. And if we right click, that generates that, and we now have a line. Okay, this isn't stitches, this is just a line to which we can apply stitches. So I could apply a run stitch to it, or I could apply a steel stitch, satin stitch to it. So that's the way we're going to get our different stitches in there. We're going to start with artwork and then convert it to stitches. That's just the way that we're going to digitize this. So let's go ahead and get my pencil tool back up, and we're going to start drawing this. Now we don't want to click a bunch of random times, okay? We want to click only when we have to. So we're going to click on our starting point and then go to our first angle here, and then go down to the next angle here. Now, why didn't I go here and then down here? Well, then I'm trapped. I can't have it be just a single run. It would have to be a double, because this is going to double back over. We're going to try to avoid doing that. So we're going this way, and then this way, and I'm just a single left click when I get there. Notice I'm not clicking here in the middle. We just want as few clicks as possible is what you want. You don't want to be clicking all over the place. And then we're going to go to here, and then to here. And now we have a choice, okay? We could stop this segment, right? And just start another segment up here. That's going to introduce a trim. That's going to make the machine stop sewing and cut. Which could be okay, but what I'm going to do is actually do what's called a traveling stitch. See, we're going to stitch over this, and this is going to be a light color. So we're going to stitch over this with a dark color, so I think we'll be able to get away with doing what's called a traveling stitch. So we're actually traveling with where our thread is to get to the next place, and then it's going to just start, boom, right back into the pattern there. And then we're not going to see that traveling stitch, because remember, we're overlapping it anyway later. All right, so we click and we click, and just a couple of more clicks here, and there we go. So now I'm gonna right click to generate this line, boom, and I've got my line. Now at this point, if I want to, I can go in and fix anything that I look at and I see that I didn't click exactly right. In practice, it doesn't really matter that much, because nobody's going to look at it with a ruler. But if you want it to be dead perfect, I can certainly understand the desire for that. So we're going to click on our select tool, which then puts our these tools around the object. And if you look down at the bottom here, right in the middle of the star right now, this is our shape tool. We're going to click on that, and we can move any errant points around. So let's see, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more here, just so I can see how that isn't quite lined up. That's bothering me. And I saw another one over here, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you don't have to be super anal about that. Like I said, nobody's going to be taking a ruler to these. But, you know, I can't help myself, so I understand that you might not be able to either. So let's go ahead and turn this into a stitch. So the way that we do that is we have it selected. Okay, so if you don't see this selection box around your object, just make sure you have this tool up here selected, and then left click on the object in the design field, or you could click on it in the sequence view if you wanted to. And then we're just going to convert it to a run. So that's down here at the bottom. This is our convert to run tool. We're going to left click on that, boom, And what we'll see is it is now stitches, and we can tell that in a couple of different ways. The graphic doesn't look that much different because a run stitch and an outline look very similar. If we look close, it looks a little bit wavier because it's made up of individual stitches rather than just like a perfect mathematical line. But we also, in our properties menu, we actually have stitch properties where we can set the stitch length. We have all these different settings we can play with. We're not going to play with any of them, okay? Because I'm going to let all of the properties of this, or at least most of the properties of this, be determined when we finish and we do what's called a save to sew, which we're going to allow Floriani to make all the decisions about what type of properties we're going to have for this design, the underlay settings and the pull compensation settings. We're not going to have to mess with any of that. So let's see. So we've got our first layer down, and that is this run stitch. Now we also are going to want to set this to be the color that we want it to be. So that's kind of like a gray color. So let's see. You know, to make things simpler, I'm actually going to change my thread chart from the Floriani Poly thread chart, which has over 300 colors in it, to the embroidery thread chart, which has only 64. Makes it a little bit easier to find a light gray. Let's see. I choose this one. So we've got our light gray in there. Now that's the only object. Oh, you know what? It's not the only object in this design that has the that light gray color. We're going to use the same color in this square part here. So you know what we might have actually done that might have been smarter is to have us start with the quilt blocks, because each part of the quilt block kind of has its own corresponding part of the other part of the design. So if we waited to do this, oh, but the blue is before that. So either way, we're going to have an unnecessary thread change. So, all right, we're just going to go ahead and go full steam ahead here. We're going to start actually with this red outline, because I want to do this red outline, and then I want to do the red outline that goes around the quilt block here, and have that go down next. So let's see. How do I want to do this? We could just trace it. We could just click, 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 click. But the problem with that is it's tough to get perfectly straight lines. I mean, there's ways around it. But you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use the shape tool up here, the rectangle. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw a rectangle. So just left clicking and dragging to create this rectangle and get it about the same size as the little banner in here. And then hit my select tool and use my shape tool again. And then I'm going to add a point kind of right in the middle there, and then add another one right in the middle on the other side. And then I think what I have to do is, because if I just grab this, this is gonna be a curve, which we don't want. So watch this. See, that's making a curve. We don't want that. We're gonna undo that. So I think what we have to do is right click each one of these 3 points here and set it to be a line. Line. That one's already, okay, so the only one I needed to do was the middle one, it looks like. But now it should bend it in. Yeah, look at that. Moved it too far, but that's bent it in so that it matches perfectly. And then so what this is saving me is it's saving me from having to draw a perfect shape. Essentially, you know, it's hard to draw this and have it be dead perfect. So I thought this might be easier, and I think it is. So I'm gonna right click just the middle one and tell it to be a line, and then grab that, and yep, that worked perfectly. Wonderful. Yeah, so then the other part that we have going on here is the fact that this star is kind of cut out of this. So we need to break this line. So we're going to right click right at the end and add a point, and then do it again here. And then we're going to split the line. So we're going to right click and choose split line, and I'm doing this on that point, and then do the same thing on the other one. What that does is it gives me just one little element here that I can then delete. So I'm going to hit the delete key on my keyboard. It's gone. And now we have this line that can be turned into stitches. So we're going to do this as a steel stitch, which is basically an outline satin stitch. And let's see, we'll make it, let's see, what's our red going to be? we'll just make it red. That's fine. And as you can see, this is quite a bit wider than we want this to end up being. But we also can't really make a steel stitch too narrow. About the minimum that you could get away with is 1.5 millimeters. So let's set that to 1.5 in our properties menu up here. Width we're setting to 1.5 mm. Okay, and we're going to hit apply. So that shrunk that down quite a bit. Okay, now the other thing is we have the ability to set an end cap. And if we were to look at our graphic here, we see how these are a little bit pointy? See if we can make our shape a little bit pointy here. I'm going to, let's see, we're going to select it. I'm actually going to back this part of the shape up just a little bit. That's way too far. I forgot I got to right click. There we go. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the start line cap here. We're going to change that from standard to sharp point. And then we're going to do the same thing for the stop line end cap. Or actually, let's apply it and see what that looks like. So that comes to a point, but actually if you look, this is really a 45-degree angle, and we do have that as an option. So our start point is this one. So we want that to be, you know, I'm not sure. Let's just try it. Let's try them both at 45 and see what it looks like. Yeah, that's what we want. Perfect. And then we can just move the end point over a little bit until it lines up. Yeah. Gotta move my stop point out of the way a little bit. Oh, that flipped it around. Oh, it's because I'm moving my stop point. Yeah, this takes a little bit of fiddling to get perfect, certainly. But anyway, you get the idea. I mean, you can sit there and fiddle around with that until it's perfect if you want, or you can just leave them with square ends or pointed ends. Like, it doesn't really make that much difference. But so I just thought that that was a neat application of that tool. All right, so at this point, I'm going to take a look at it in 3D to see whether there's anything weird going on in my steel stitch. It's kind of hard to see it unless you put it in 3D. Yeah, everything looks okay. I don't see any wonkiness going on, so that is pretty good so far. All right, so that is the red outline here, and we can now go on and do the red outlines that are going to go around our little blocks. So let's do that. Let's see. So we could draw this with our run tool, or we could draw it with our rectangle tool. So let's see how easy it is to do it with a rectangle tool. We'll just draw a perfect rectangle, perfect as I can get it anyway. Let's see, 22.6 by 22.4, 22.6 by 22.6. It's just as long as it's the same on both sides, it doesn't matter. And then we're going to rotate it. So I've selected it. I'm going to use this little ball here to rotate it. I guess I could have rotated it 45 degrees or something, but let's go ahead and just put it on there. And then we'll scale it down. Scale it down some more. I feel like if I'd have just drawn it, we'd have been done with this part already. Scale this part in a little bit. I'm going to zoom in a bit on this. What was I doing, like 400%? Yeah, it's pretty good. All right, so you can use the arrow keys to pan around, by the way. All right, so let's do the rest of it with the shape tool. And we want to have these basically right in the middle of the line, because the steel stitch comes out from both sides. Okay. And then we are gonna make that a steel. And then we're going to set that to 1.5, which again, that's about as narrow as you can make these and have them still work. And okay, so then, of course, it just occurred to me that doing this in this order is going to be meaningless because we're going to have to color sort these anyway. Yeah. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and digitize it. I'm not going to worry about putting stuff in the right order because we're going to end up color sorting this thing anyway, which means it's going to automatically move stuff around so it sews out in the right order. So anyway, the point is next we are going to do the white diamond in there. And this time I'm going to draw it just to see if it's easier. Click there, click there, click there. Remember, I'm trying to stay right in the middle of the shape. And then here I'm going to close the shape. Just going to hit Shift C to close it. And we're going to change the color to white and make that a steel stitch. And again, we're going to set that to 1.5 millimeters. Alright, so now we've got another choice to make, okay? We could, if we wanted to, we could do this part, and actually, you know, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking maybe we should do this part and then have the, yeah, you know, I should have done this the other way. I should have done this sew out first, and then these sew out around it. Like, I did it completely backwards. My brain has been broken all day long today, and yesterday too, but yeah, you know what? I should have done this in the other order. I should have done this, and then this, and then this. So we'll just I'll show you how to rearrange the order in the sequence view. So anyway, we have a choice though. We could do 4 triangles or 1 rectangle, or you know, 1 square here, diamond shape. So if we did it and just let everything overlap, it would be easier to do. You know, less work digitizing and less chance for things not to line up right, but it would also be putting more stitches on top of one another than you really need to, and waste a lot of time sewing that. So let's go ahead and just do 3 triangles. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do these 3 triangles. I'm going to make it so that the satin stitch is going to overlap them by a bit, and that they're also going to be overlapped by, let me start over again. So I've hit my artwork tool up here, and we're going to make sure that this is overlapped kind of on all sides. So it's overlapped by the gray, it's overlapped by the white satin stitch, because that's going to actually end up being on top of this. So alright, so I'm going to write, oh, you know what? I'm going to hit backspace here because I meant to close this shape. So Shift C to close the shape. And this needs to be blue, so that'll be our blue. And we're going to make that a fill stitch. There we go. And we're going to copy and paste this. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to use the duplicate button, this right here. This looks like 2 pieces of paper. And then we're going to take this one and rotate it 90 degrees rather than redraw it, just so that they're all exactly the same. So we're going to use the rotate 90 and place that one here. And do the same thing. Duplicate, rotate 90. Oops. Put that there. And one last time, duplicate and rotate 90. And there. Okay, and remember, we're going to change the order so that these get overlapped by the white outline. And then, so then after that, we're going to do the gray triangles, and we're going to do those exactly the same way. But they're going to be on top of these, so I want to try to make these a little bit more inside the lines, but we do want them to overlap the red a bit. Still want to draw it a little bit bigger than the shape. Of course, our save to sew is going to do our pull compensation for us, though, so we don't have to build that in as much as a Shift C to close that shape. And then make this gray. We're going to use that same color gray as before, so we pick it from here. And then we fill that. And then we copy it and rotate it and place that one. And then we're going to copy that and rotate it and place that one. And then we're going to copy that and rotate it and place that one. Okay. And then our last one is just kind of this red, which is just a rectangle. Shape tool. God, my brain is just not working. So we just left click and drag to make a square. Actually, no, I'm just gonna draw it. Use this, and we're gonna click here, 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 and then close the shape, Shift C. We're going to make that with our red and fill it. All right, now we're going to want to change the order here of these, like I said. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up here and we are going to grab this steel stitch and this steel stitch here. So I'm holding down my control key and I've clicked on both of these while holding my control key. Then I'm going to right click them and move them so that they are last. And I still want them in a different order because I want the red to be actually last. So I'm going to left click on the red and drag it down. Yeah, that's how I want that. Okay, so that looks pretty good to me. And you know, again, we'll see if it actually looks good. And something that you could do if you wanted to is you could put a outline around these, like a red outline around this and a gray outline around these with a run stitch. I'm not going to do that, but you know, you could if you wanted to. So basically, we're going to take this whole thing now, and we're going to duplicate it and move it over here. So there we go. Now, if we want to, we could align these so like they're both aligned to the same horizontal center. So if you wanted to do that, you would, how would we do that? We need to select them both at the same time. So I guess that would be everything starting with this. So if I click the first object that makes up these guys and then all the way down and hold down Shift and click on the last object, I could select both of these guys. So I've got both of those selected now. This is the thing that allows me to align. So if I align them to the vertical center, no, that's not going to work. We'd have to group these objects first. Right click. Oh, I'd have to group each one. Why am I even bothering to do this? All right, group that and group that. Okay, so what grouping does is it makes it so everything is selected. Oh, you know what? Duh! That's what I should have done to select both of them in the first place. You select it and you group it. So you right-click a collection of objects, and then you can group them. That way, when you click on one, it's like clicking on all of them. Duh. So if I click this and then I hold down Control and click that, I get everything. And then when I go to align, I can choose to vertical center align and it lines them up. And you see how it barely even moved them because I had placed it pretty perfectly. But that's how you can make sure that you have it placed perfectly. So anyway, what's next? We've got basically everything except for the star and the words. So for the words, we are not going to manually digitize them because that would take forever and be pointless. We have this awesome software with really good lettering built into it. Let's use it. So we got Hope Quilt, all right, and we got a capital. Looks like they're all capital letters, but we have a larger H and a larger T. So we can do this.